They've got about 1,200 metres before they get there. First man to hit it potentially might be Natnael Berhane, but I think it's going to be this group behind. So, can any of those who've struggled so far refine their legs?
It's not easy when you get ramped of 11%.
Indeed. Well, they hit you almost constantly. It's difficult to set a rhythm almost on what is a not the most testy of inclines that you're going to be having all season. But nonetheless, you get these little spiteful nibbly bits, and the one before El Collet Roy of 11% is going to hurt. We'll come through Marcella then, which has some great views, by the way, but we'll probably stop on the way back down. That flattens out. There's a small kicker within that at a roundabout where we change direction, and then we head for the Plate of Vac. Here we go, and it is Contador's call for action.
Well, Trek Segafredo getting up to the front, clearly not happy with the pace that Team Sky have been setting and wanting to up it even further.
Yes, indeed. Contador calls for it. Molina reacts. Also looking back to see Orica here, and Adam Yates clearly fancies a little bit of a skirmish today. That's good news. Darwin Atapuma is also in the house for UAE Team Emirates. He's making very quiet progress up behind Team Sky at the moment. He's just embedded within that group. 8 to go. It's getting lively.
Well, it certainly is getting lively, and I think Contador has asked for this pace to be picked up, and picked up quite dramatically, although by the looks of he's actually putting one of his teammates in some real trouble, and that's Bauke Mollema, who's fighting to hang on to the wheels.
It's Pantano that's guiding him, not Mollema, but
no, Mollema was sitting about 4 or 5 wheels further back.
Indeed.
And struggling.
Yeah, as you pointed out, it was Pantano that was guiding Contador instead. Geraint Thomas, he got on the radio. I don't know whether this is to be allowed the get-go from Chris Froome. Looks like as he pulled the radio from his ear, I'm not quite sure. But G was on the blower as to what the instructions might be. That's Bardet's just sailed out of your screen in front of Chris Froome at the moment. All eyes on Chris Froome. Must be a lot of pressure as he's constantly monitored. Of course, Valverde just behind him, and interesting to see Dan Martin as well with that wide grip of his, just waiting to impose himself. Also getting back into this is Pierre Latour, but it's Bardet that stays with just behind Geraint Thomas, as you can see at the moment. Gosh, it's all rock and roll at the moment, and so much can play out. Wondering who it is going to be from Bahrain today that gives it a go.
Good question.
Yes, I'm not quite sure. We'll see. 8 kilometres to go, nearly 7 now, and it's the steep little kicker that we were talking about coming up, Magnus.
Well, it keeps on going up and down quite a bit here over the next couple of kilometres. By the time we get through this 11% at El Collet Roy, then it levels out again to about 3%. Well, not that that's completely level, but and then kicks up again to 6%, back down to 2.5%, and then we've got a bit of a descent before we're hitting the real steep ramps up towards the finish.
7k to go then, still out of the saddle. Jaroslav Pantano doing a great job, the Colombian, maybe seeing the sun god at the side of the road. Would that be Murdoch? No. Waving the Colombian flag, and they eat into it again, just tracing a nice line through. I'm looking further back, still 3 from Cannondale.
Hugh Carthy swinging on the back there now, though.
He is. They got Brent Canty and Formolo. I don't think Pierre Rolland is amongst them, but I might be doing him a disservice. Meanwhile, Contador looks like he's just stalking at the moment. It's Pantano that's setting the pace. Contador's happy with it. Geraint Thomas just behind him, as you can see. A real assembly of talent. Dan Martin's made another couple of moves up. He's in about position 5 at the moment. Yeah,
he's moving up, and he has to move up as well, because all of the big favourites are now sitting very much near the front. There's Contador, G, Valverde's up there, Bardet's up there. All the big names are basically in the top 10 here, and I think the moment that Pantano decides that he's had enough and swings out, we will have an attack from someone.
Look at the bouncing Atapuma there, just a bit of rock and roll for Team UAE. Looking further back through, Bora also very much represented as part of our thoughts right now, and it's good to see Rafa Majka, who's still very much to the fore. There's Chris Froome, and here goes a big move. It's the first one from John Darwin Atapuma. He's gone well here in the past, and he's coming round, and he has his route lengthened there by Geraint Thomas, who doesn't know he's quite just on his back wheel at the moment. Just pace knocked back ever so slightly as he gets crushed in amongst the barriers. He's only a little fella. He'll call out, I am sure, so don't worry about him too much. 6Ks to go, and now this is where it flattens out into La Masella. There are two sub-peaks to take. One is the kick up to the Plata de Vac, and then they descend for about 2 kilometers before we kick up again in steps to the line.
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult one, because the opening part of the final kick up towards the finish is 10%. It's a fairly long one as well, and then it levels out, and you really have to change pace very, very quickly. And then you've got another 14% and 12% gradient that you have to deal with. So it's really, really difficult to time it, get everything right, gear selection, not overdoing it, and actually just making sure that you can last a full sort of what is it, kilometre and a half up to the finish. It's not a sort of a multiple efforts, it's one longer effort.
There's somebody we've not really dwelt on, Louis Meintjes. Oh, here we go, big kick right now, and Orica decide that they're going to have some fun today. Why not? Is this... Well, wait and see. Let's have a look in a few moments' time. Big dig, most certainly, with 6Ks remaining.
Yeah, it's certainly a strong move, and I think it's more trying to soften things up for Adam Yates for the final. It's certainly a climb that should suit Adam very, very well.
Yeah, I think so.
Just trying to pick out who that is.
Yeah, well, Sam Bewley can go at moments such as this, but we'll work it out in a moment. 6Ks remaining. We're looking further back. Everyone's feeling their way up this mountain at the moment. This is that flat run into Masella before it kicks up again with about 5K remaining. The gap is, well, it shows you what you can do with a little bit of explosion right now. And yeah, why not? Just out of sight into the shadows. They're getting increasingly long here. It says springtime, of course, and it is Verona indeed who has made this push. That's Carlos Verona. Not quite sure whether there's any local knowledge factoring into this one, but I think he is a foil that's been sent up the road for Adam Yates. Suggests that Adam Yates may well be feeling good, because with 5 to go, this is not a bid for glory.
Well, it is a bit of a bid for glory if he can hold it together, but it's still a long way to go. Yep. I think it's just putting more pressure onto the teams to keep working hard, keep the pace going up, and that's Peter Kenyak is now on the front for Team Sky.
Just going to mention Louis Meintjes, who's on the back here. He's sort of a mini version of Chris Froome. Holds his his elbows out in terms of riding style, I should say. Gets a nice aero look to him, Louis Meintjes, but I think made some bad choices of teams to jump onto. It seemed to be ever smaller lifeboats. No disrespect to UAE, but if he'd stayed with Dimension Data, I think he would have had a happier progress. Certainly through last season, he went off the boil a bit, but Louis Meintjes is within that group, although he is looks like he may well be suffering. He's at the back with Hugh Carthy at the moment as the bridge is remade here with 5 to go.
Well, he might be suffering a tad at the moment, but we also got to remember there's it's a long season, and if you haven't gone in here with a peak form and you're effectively building towards the Giro or something like that, then it might be a bit too early to really start going properly.
Kenyak that gets them over, G there, as well as Chris Froome, of course, bouncing on Chris Froome's wheel. Alberto Contador has now dispensed with his teammates by the looks of things. Still not to be outdone is Darwin Atapuma from UAE, who stays in the frame. In fact, Contador checks over his shoulder to see Atapuma right there on his wheel. Still a couple, of course, from Movistar, including Alejandro Valverde, so disappointed yesterday. Bardet starting to chug. In fact, that's Pierre Latour, I believe. There is Contador, centre of your screen, with Froome on the left as you look at it, and Atapuma just tracing the wheel of Contador at the moment, back out of the saddle. This is great work, isn't it? Shows you what fabulous names we have that have been drawn to this race.
Well, it's a really big field of contenders for well, just about any major stage race that's all come to Catalunya, and they usually do turn up here, and it's one of the sort of big opening fixtures for any stage race rider.
Yes, indeed. Let's see how they go. Darwin Atapuma's certainly well and truly in the frame today, which is a phenomenal push by him. He does know this incline. I wonder whether he's the sort of guy that could be allowed to have some fun. I don't think so. I think there's too many would like a stage win out of this, and it did Dan Martin all sorts of good when he slapped himself on the back in 2016 with victory here and put to the sword some many big names. Beat Contador, of course. Bardet, Tejay van Garderen, Richie Porte, Quintana and Froome were all in his wake. Has he got the same level of explosivity? It's a run-in that he'll know very well indeed. Coming up to 4 then, we're up to the Plata del Vac. When it says 3.5, well, it won't. But when it before it clicks down to 3, as we're only using in block numbers
somewhere
at the moment.
Between the 4 and the 3.
you get where I am. In a strange place. They're going to go on a descent of 5%, so all of a sudden they'll be able to put something back in their legs for an explosive finale.
Yeah, well, the key's going to be there though for the likes of Team Sky here now, and Pieter Serry on the front to just drive this super hard over the top and really pick the pace up so that they stay in control of this group, because the positioning into the bottom of the next sort of kick is so important, and hopefully Pieter Serry has still got a little bit left in his legs.
Indeed. I had a little think this morning about who might be involved within this group. Atapuma, Menkes, Carthy, Roger Latour, Pierre Latour, Pierre Roger Latour, get his name right in a minute. And in fact, they're all here. Great that it's getting to that part of the season now where we can expect things of riders.
Well, we certainly can do, and I mean, most of the time you expect things of certain quality riders, even if they're on an average day, they still got some, you know, got enough in them to start kind of playing towards the finish.
Here's that ski ramp to glory for somebody. In fact, it'll be just before the Flamme Rouge that they start to kick up. I say that, it's probably with about 500 meters to go once we start climbing again. As soon as they dip down towards the Lac de la Molina, it kicks up and it's suddenly 10%, and then it goes 14, 12, and then maybe you'll be first across the line.
Well, just maybe. Turning right off this road here now in the second, and we're starting then to climb, but the first part of it is round about 10%. They've certainly got a short kick of about 10%. Then it levels out again, and that's when we're hitting the really difficult 14% gradient, and that's where the riders have sort of gone for it in the past and try to hold it all the way up to the finish line from there then, and that's just under a kilometer to go.
And there it is. They've readjusted the ticker. 2 to go, and so we're coming to our dip in just a few moments' time. They come over the bridge, and this is essentially it. Time to climb for glory then. Big pitch up, 10%, smacks you in the face, and then it levels off for about 400 meters. Then it's a 14% pitch of nastiness before another leveling off before 12%, and then finally you get your chance to run for the line. Koenig says it's down to you, and G looks around as well and says, where's Chris Froome? And it's going to be down to Geraint Thomas, I think. Still looking at each other. Other breaks making it at the moment, and it's Movistar that roll the dice. I think this is for Valverde at the moment. Send him out up the road and then just stay on Contador's wheel. Dan Martin also coming very much back into the frame, and also here is Bardet picking themselves up. In fact, heading for the last sort of about 1600 meters. There's a flatter section just about which they will arrive at after that 10% kick, and we're on it now.
Well, I think Pieter Serry could have done. We're not going quite as hard into the bottom of this climb and actually kept the pace going for slightly longer, but G has been left on the front, and all of the big favourites are now looking at each other. Who's going to make the first move?
Atapuma picks it up. He goes by the barriers, and he's squirreled off right now. This is super work. Who's he taking with him is the big question at the moment. I think
everyone.
It may. It's not George, is it? We'll see. They're digging in right now, and Atapuma certainly couldn't sustain it, or didn't want to. Maybe he's just testing himself and everybody else around him. Beds in next to Contador again and gets back out of the saddle. Feisty stuff right now. Who's going to be the man who's big enough to try and grab this? G stays with it, just behind G as well. You can see is Valverde as well. There's Contador rocking and rolling in the red. Here's that plateau we were talking about.
Yeah, that plateau is definitely, and the pace gets driven up here straight away. And as we're getting into the next little kick now, that's where it really starts to tell. 14% we got, and then it levels out again, and before it kicks up to about 12%. So timing now is everything.
Adam Yates looks really, really good. He was not very well, of course, earlier on this season. Abu Dhabi put paid to him as well, but he's got a kick, and I guess you might say he might have some freshness about him as well. You could probably say the same for Bardet after getting kicked off Paris-Nice. Tejay van Garderen is here, a man who's won it in the past, and Dan Martin just rolling over, just coming by the team coaches. Not that far to go, and they're starting to, the incline is starting to hurt them. You can see as well. No wonder they've jacked up the coaches at the front here. Good work, fantastic work, and great to see. Adam Yates just running for this right now.
300 minutes to go. 300 minutes to go. Adam Yates.
Dan Martin goes over the top. Dan Martin goes for the attack right now. This is where he attacked last time by. Digging in for glory, is he? And of course, Valverde also in the frame. And look who is in their wake. And it looks like it's going to be Dan Martin all over again. Valverde grits his teeth and comes around the outside. Is he going to get there? Valverde, it looks like it's going to be him. Dan Martin has taken this in the past. Valverde today. Dan Martin runner-up. Adam Yates crosses the line ahead of Bardet. What a race. What a run. What a test, I think it's fair to say, as some of perhaps the broken-hearted. There's Latour crossing the line right now. Micah, a few others as well in their wake. There'll be some big gaps today. More still to come, of course, when we get to Tortosa after tomorrow's breakaway day. But we've had some fun, have we not? Wow, what about that?
Well, it's always proven to be a very interesting finish on La Molina, and certainly it lived up to expectations today again. And I think it was interesting to see how everyone was waiting and waiting and waiting, and the guys have really stayed back. We hadn't seen Dan Martin an awful lot. We hadn't seen Adam Yates. Even Valverde was sitting really far back and just trying to stay out of trouble, really, and keep their face away. And then all of a sudden, with about 400 meters to go, they all came to the front and showed us how it's done.
Well, if you thought that Movistar were going to be quiet, think again. Valverde, like a spawning salmon, you show it a fly, it just can't help but go for it. And he did, and indeed he delivered. Beating Dan Martin, who took this stage last year by a couple of meters. Terrific run up La Molina. So